Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos. My name is Hollow, and today I'm on this, well, beautiful character, just gorgeous character, to talk to you about dragon incantations, which is why my hand is very faintly glowing red. Dragon incantations in this game are interesting. They're really cool. Instead of transforming into a nightmarish skeleton dragon creature like in the earlier games, now we're transforming a bit of ourselves to have a dragon above us, and then that dragon head will do something depending on which incantation we're doing. Some of these look incredible. Like that lightning one where you hang in the air and you get to do this crazy long animation with lasers, or the various spewing of fire or ice or rock. Because some of the dragons look slightly different to each other, right? You like the magma one, you get unique heads based on which one you're doing. It's really cool. But are they actually any good? I would say, yeah, they're really good, and also no, they're not. It's like weird. They're capable of doing some big numbers, dealing serious damage to enemies in PvE or PvP, but they're also very capable of just being kind of like a wet noodle and disappointing as hell when, like, a small fly hits you and interrupts your giant dragon cast animation. Today I want to talk to you about 3 specific dragon incantations, the ones that are arguably the best, and what I think of each of them. Theodorix Magma is going to be one of them. We're going to look at Ekzykes Decay, which is arguably the best one in the game, and then we have Placidusax Ruin, which is the extremely cool laser shot. Naturally, if you are interested in running some dragon spells yourself, you're going to want the Dragon Communion Seal, which has an S scaling in Arcane, and of course, boost Dragon Communion incantations. I also strongly recommend Faithful's Canvas Talisman. This is going to raise the potency of your incantations, which is very good. Down below me are a few volunteers who definitely agreed to help me. They have roughly 2,200 health, and we're going to test each of the 3 spells and see which comes out on top for just raw DPS to begin with. Now, we're going to start with the Decay, which is going to be an interesting one because I'm going to need to do 2 tests. Here's the first test. So we're going to do 1 pop, and if we headshot, it's going to do ridiculous damage. And I believe the Scarlet, yes, the Scarlet Rot is going. We can see the cloud, so it's going to take damage over time. Let's see if that kills it. Yep, looks like it. There we go. Just under 2,200 damage from 1 L2. The reason that worked is because I got a headshot, which is interesting that you can get a headshot with a breath attack like that, which did increase the damage by about 600 and cause the Scarlet Rot. Now let's see what happens when I actually hold it down, consuming FP, extra FP, to keep blasting out shots. So there we go. That's a lot of FP. That's nearly all my FP. But it's very clearly going to hit him for big damage. And then your Scarlet Rot, well, that's definitely going to proc there. The next test will be Placidusax Ruin then. So we're going to see what we can do. We're going to run up right away, see if we can bait out an attack so I can get it off. It's quite a long animation, and I can be interrupted out of it. Let's try again. So obviously the downside is I can be interrupted. Upon activation, if they're near me, it will do about 800 damage. Then we have the 2 waves and the final push up. This costs the most FP out of the 3, so I would want it to have, 4 procs of damage. But because it's such a long cast, I can be interrupted by certain enemies, big enemies like these guys, which means I'm a bit vulnerable when doing it. Last up then, we have Theodorix Magma. This one should be lowest single hit, but good damage over time. So 1,200-ish. And we're missing 1,000 damage there, which we might get. No, we don't get from the magma. So it's 1,200 from the hit and 800 more from just the lava or magma they're standing in, which is pretty good. But as you can see, it's just not enough to finish the giant here. So that's a look at the numbers of each of the incantations, but I want to just mention a couple of different aspects of them that, should be noted. First up with the Placidusax then, you can use it while hanging in the air. This can be really good in both PvE and PvP when you want to stay out of range of attacks. With the magma, I can fire it under myself and create a safety area of magma, which, enemies walk into, they're going to take damage and hopefully be staggered by. Lastly, with the Decay, I can turn it and spread that horrible Scarlet Rot in different directions, which can be used to catch out enemies or, aim again on the fly if I miss. Let's quickly talk about where to get these, and then we'll jump into some boss fighting PvE and some PvP. You'll need to train these incantations at a specific place, and this will require dragon hearts. Depending on the spell, the incantation you're actually going to learn, it'll require more dragon hearts. We can get these by killing dragons. Every time we kill any dragon, they'll drop a dragon heart or multiple. The Cathedral of Dragon Communion is where you'll learn learn these incantations, which is here at the southern point of Caelid, and is very easy to get to very early in the game. You can literally just run the road down until you reach the actual cathedral. Then inside, we can just use the statue or the altar and have a look at what we currently have unlocked. To unlock new incantations, you must defeat the dragon associated with it. Ekzykes dragon is right here, outside of the Cathedral of the Dragon Communion. And of course, will fight us using, well, that Rotten Breath attack, and so we want to avoid the Scarlet Rot if we can while fighting it. After you kill the dragon, you're going to get the dragon heart, and you're also going to get the notification that, hey, you've unlocked a new dragon power to be learned, which will now appear when you go back to the altar and look to buy them. Theodorix, the magma worm, is going to be found here in the consecrated snowfields, or the secret area that leads to the Haligtree region. It heads east along the frozen river here, and once you reach the waterfall, you're going to find the sleeping dragon. And yeah, this is a big boy, very late game, very dangerous, so be careful with this. He is vulnerable to bleed, so that really does help if you have that. After you kill him, you're going to get your dragon hearts, and then you will be able to learn his incantation at the cathedral. Finally, to get Placidusax's laser, you're going to want to come to Farum Azula. He's actually a remembrance boss and a secret optional boss for the game. The nearest grace is the one before the main boss area of Malekith. It's beside the Great Bridge. If you go back down the elevator you came up to get here, run out of the building and outside, straight ahead of you is going to be this ledge with this pretty ominous look at the center of the storm. So we want to drop down onto the ledge below, and this is sort of a pathway that's going to lead us to the boss fight. Once we reach this platform with some skeletons that are buried here, we're going to lie down in this specific spot and be transported to the boss arena. It's a really cool area, really cool arena, and I think actually a really cool boss fight as well. After you defeat him, you'll get the boss soul or the remembrance, and you'll need to take that to the fingers and have it transformed into the dragon incantation. But those are the locations. Now let's get into some PvE to begin with. These fights or tests are actually in New Game Plus, and I'm going against the boss that ambushes you right at the beginning of that new game. The Grafted Scion has around 4,000 health, so should be a good target to show this. We're going to start with Placidusax's laser, which is the 4-hit combo, right? As he lands, I should be able to get all 4 hits off, and yeah, as you can see, I do, and that is a solid, a very respectable 2,500 hit. The problem with this is it's a super long cast, isn't it? You've got to get all 4 hits off and hang in the air right in front of the enemy. And if you get hit at any point by basically any attack, you're going to be knocked out of it. So while the damage is nice and while the animation is really cool, unfortunately, if a boss can hit you, you're going to be knocked out of this and you're not going to get the value. Moving on to our second example then, Theodorix Magma. A lot easier to aim and hit because it's just a single shot that goes off and, you know, has a little bit of range to it. And then of course it leaves behind the lava pool that if the enemy stands in, they're going to take damage over time. What's extra nice about that is as this boss is blocking, it's still taking the damage of the magma, which is really racking up some good damage. You can see in just 2 casts, I've spent the same FP as Placidusax, and I've done the same damage, and it was a lot safer to do, that's for sure. Lastly then, let's go with the rot attack, the Decay. This has incredible range. I can do it from downtown, and obviously I can hold it to pump out more hits, and it's going to get that Scarlet Rot. Obviously, this guy's being mean and instantly interrupts me because, yeah, it's a dragon spell. I'm so easy to be interrupted. So what you got to do is find the opportunity to range it, like when it's mid-combo, where I backed off and actually landed the blow. Now I've got the Scarlet Rot, that's just going to tick away. If we time this well and get it off on an enemy without being interrupted, it's going to do raw damage that's very, very solid, comparable, in fact, to Placidusax. Alright, so now we're jumping into some PvP. This is interesting. So let's take the Rot. This is the clear winner. This is something you may have seen in PvP. It's got incredible range. You've got the fact that you can turn it while firing to catch people out. Obviously, if you get the proc of the Scarlet Rot, it's going to burn away at their health, which is creating huge pressure and great damage. It's reliable. It's good. Again, it's got really good range, so you can cast it from very far away. In a full-scale battle where you're not being the full focus, you can get this off very easily at great range and really burn groups of enemies down. Obviously, you're vulnerable to being interrupted because for some reason there's no poise or hyper armor on these incantations, but very clearly this rot is good. Then we come to the laser, Placidusax's ruin. Seemingly awesome when it works, but terrible when it doesn't. And more often than not, it does not work. Alright, so it's got this burst cone in front of you when you activate it, which, as you can see, catches people out pretty easily. Now, if they roll backwards away from you and panic, the follow-up hits have a reasonable chance to hit them. And as you can see, it does a lot of damage, and I was able to one-combo this guy with just one cast. That's pretty impressive. However, what about this example where the guy rolls away from me and then doesn't panic? Well, that costed a lot of FP, and now he's fine. It leaves me quite vulnerable to do right, and again, it's very expensive. What happens if they just roll into me and behind me? I'm super vulnerable, I'm trapped in my own animation, and now they're gonna burst me. To say the least, this is a super risky attack, and if you do get all the hits off, yeah, the enemy's gonna die, but the chances of that, I think, are very low. Again, really cool, but just awkward to use. Finally, let's talk about the Magma Incantation. This is actually not too bad to land because, yeah, it's a fairly quick cast compared to the others. You've got reasonable range, and you've got that magma that's left after, right? On paper, this might be the best option. It's actually the worst. The damage just isn't good. It's easy to avoid because you can very clearly see it coming. You just roll it. What about the whole creating a safe area or an area that surrounds the enemy that they're standing in and they're standing in magma? As you can see, it doesn't really do any relevant damage at all, and they're not staggering in a way that matters. It's not even a real mini stagger. So I was extremely disappointed by this one. I have had fun using these though. They do look really cool, and when they work, it feels incredible. But frankly, only the Rot Breath is the one that is reliable and consistent. Oh, and here's a bonus clip in PvP. Here's Josh just wandering around looking for someone, and he spots the guy just hiding up top, weirdly as a flag. Very obvious, right? And then gets one shot by his dragon incantation. Of course, it was the Rot Breath. Maybe this is how we make them work. You have to trick your opponent, confuse them, and then destroy them. So there you have it. That's my look at the 3 strongest dragon incantations. I do think all of them are really cool in design and concept, and visuals especially. These are super cool. But the fact that they are lacking in any hyper armor like many incantations in the game and many Ashes of War, I'm confused why they don't have that. For me, Ekzykes Decay is the clear winner. It's just the best option in PvE and PvP flat out for a dragon incantation. The damage is great, the mobility, the way you can turn the attack, that's great. And the Scarlet Rot, oh my god, that's just so strong in so many boss fights and brilliant in PvP. Theodorix is a weird one. You have a lot of potential in PvE scenarios that are weak to fire, and obviously the magma that is on the ground does great damage there, and it's easy to get out and cheap on the FP compared to the others. Meanwhile, in PvP, it just doesn't work. It literally just doesn't work. I feel like it needs a buff on the magma damage. For some reason, Tarnish just walked through lava in this game and it's fine. Then Placidusax, the coolest dragon incantation in the game for its animations. One of the coolest incantations flat out, but disappointingly super vulnerable while you're using it. Super exposed. The damage might be good, but it's rare you'll ever see that damage. If they're not going to give us some hyper armor on these incantations, then at very least, I believe we should be able to cancel them at any time to get us out of those long animations where we've obviously whiffed or missed. But I found it interesting anyway. I've quite enjoyed using them. Even when I was getting smashed, it's fun to make them work. And I certainly respect anyone out there using them, especially in PvP, because they're very fun, if a bit exposed. Let me know what you think about this though, if you have any thoughts on dragon incantations in general. If the video was useful or interesting, please drop a like so we can continue to keep making these. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.